How's it going, everyone? I'm Alexander Guy. I'm an engineer at ABK Labs. Today, we're going to talk about SVMKit, which is Solana Infrastructure as Code. So if you're in a position where you want to, let's say, launch your own cross-data center private chain based on Solana, or you want to launch a bunch of RPC nodes with validators, as however you want things to fit together. If you want to create a sandbox to test your, latest optimization or improvement to the code base of like Frankendancer or Agave, or work on a security exploit, or rewrite some core functionality like change the consensus algorithm fundamentally and be able to test it all deterministically, for instance, inside CI/CD, I would love if you guys would come talk to me about it, because it's something we've been working on. So our backstory is we partnered with the Solana Foundation to start supporting institutions and big enterprise customers with their Solana permission environments. These are effectively private chains that are sometimes forked software, but a lot of times just stock like Agave or Frankendancer that's outside of mainnet beta. So what we did is we kind of started with an initial problem, worked through that, and then said, okay, well, what if we just generalize this issue, built tooling out that just supported the general case. Some big pain points with just working with Solana is if you've ever tried to bring up a network from Genesis, it can be exceedingly difficult. You have to do a bunch of steps, obviously, and the docs are there, but they can be really hard to process. So you get into situations where the network becomes unstable, you've got to rebuild it from scratch. It's a very manual pain. And this is something that you can run into. You spend weeks of time on labor where, we can now kind of optimize that away. So in this case, what if you could just say, look, I've got a bunch of Solana infrastructure that I need, services I need to put together. And what if you could just say, look, I want to describe it as code. I want to deterministically launch these things in any type of environment that you need. And then have all of this stuff exist in Git. So when you're onboarding new developers or you're doing operations or whatever you need, you can just bring these things up, do the work you need, and tear them down without any manual steps. So we've got a situation now where we're using Pulumi. Fundamentally, we're a Pulumi provider, and what that does is it basically ties the Solana first-class componentry into the Pulumi stack. So you can describe your Pulumi stack in JavaScript or TypeScript or any of the languages support, Python, Golang. And then effectively you launch your stack, and Pulumi goes through and drives all that componentry in order to bring up all your infrastructure that is Solana. We also have support for a CLI. Some of the tooling that people are using, they need like Ansible or something else. We have that as a kind of alternative approach where we support TOML as a config file. So you can deploy with SVMKit into bare metal, all the cloud providers, and private clouds, libvirt, Proxmox, all of that type of thing. We support AMD 64 and ARM 64, which we've started getting requests for that, specifically AWS Graviton, which are interesting processors to run on top of. We support Debian 11 and 12 and Ubuntu 22 and 24 LTS, so it's kind of the baseline. And so like a really good example is, let's say you want to instantiate Agave, right? That's a TypeScript example of setting Agave 2214 on some remote host, could be anything. In this case, it's configured for testnet. You can see that the actual TypeScript itself is strongly typed, so all of the knobs that you normally have to deal with related to Agave configuration are exposed directly in the code base. You can also break out of that, and if you've got some custom stuff that your fork or whatever you've modified requires, you can work with that too. So in general, what we do is we've broken out all the Solana infrastructure into components. You can imagine the usual suspects on the left, like Genesis and Faucets, along with validators like Agave and Frankendancer. We support many versions, many forks, all kind of prepackaged, and things that you need to do on Solana networks to get them stable, like bringing up stake and vote accounts. Again, that can all be automated, so you're not doing any of this stuff manually. We have a couple examples in Git on GitHub that you can check out. A really great one is doing a 3-node permissioned environment inside AWS. This scales up and down. It's great for CI and CD and the testing approach. You effectively can do the full Genesis, bootstrap the network, get the faucet up and running, and then launch additional validators, and you've got a full Solana network online. Takes about 2.5 minutes to launch the complete network. It is all performed in parallel. It's much nicer than going and setting it up all by hand. So the beauty is the Pulumi up and Pulumi down kind of aspect is, again, there are no manual steps at all. You run it, it goes, it's deterministic. You can repeat it every single time. So it's like any other integration test environment or whatever you need for production. Under the hood, it's a Golang library. We target SSH endpoints wherever they may be. We can run things locally. We do all the software distribution for our underlying pieces through apt. We're primarily Debian supported, and we run our own repositories, our own signing. You can also supply all your own software. So if you've got, like I said, a custom fork, or you've got some requirements on security for how code was built from source, totally supports that as well. We put the keys in place. We do the package installation. All the systemd service setup is all handled for you. It's GPL v3. It's totally open source, free to use. We'd love it if you guys would integrate it into your projects. We're looking for other people. There's been some discussion about Terraform and OpenTofu. CentOS potentially supported, so we're actively interested in that. We'd love to get some issues, PRs, feedback. We'd love to see it integrated into your systems. You can find us at svmkit.xyz on GitHub or the SVMKit hackers group on Telegram. So, thank you. Cool.